It's great to be here with you. Thank you so much. And what I'd like to do today is share a little bit about the hospitality and tourism industry. I'll talk a little bit about our company, STR, and also a little bit about hotel industry analytics, the importance of, we're a research firm, so we have a lot of number geeks in our organization, but I'd like to share a little bit about industry analytics and just what that means to us, and then share a little bit about how we serve the industry as well as academia, two important roles. So let me start with a little bit of industry takeaways, a little bit about the hospitality and tourism industry, and a little bit about some things that we see going on now. And this is our perspective in terms of what, the way we see the industry, but a lot of changes and a lot of things going on. First, our industry relies very heavily upon data and analytics, and that happens really at lots of different levels. There are people here at the corporate level, there are people here at the unit level, but the need for data and the need for analytics really takes place at all different levels. If you think about most high-end hotels have a revenue manager, and their whole, one of their most important things in life is studying the numbers, and they're looking at data, they're looking at our reports on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and trying to analyze those numbers, make decisions as far as the future is concerned. At the corporate level, most companies now have, if not at least a person, bigger companies will have a whole department and it'll be called something like business intelligence or strategic intelligence. And what are they doing? They're taking numbers, they're taking data, and they're analyzing that data. They're correlating, performance data with guest satisfaction data, or they're correlating performance data with review data, TripAdvisor data, or other type of social media data, and that's their main focus. And then at the market level, tourism organizations are increasingly dependent upon analytics now. Every tourism organization has spec'd out their comparable markets. So I just did a presentation recently in San Diego. In San Diego, it was top secret. Their comparable markets, they feel like they compete with this city and this city and this city. And they're always wanting to compare their performance with their comparable markets to see how they're doing. They're competing. What are they competing for? Well, they're competing for big convention business. Are the conventions coming to San Diego, or are they going to what other cities? So big reliance upon data, big reliance upon analytics. Then the next takeaway, and some of these are obvious, but changing, the change in our industry. If you think about what's going on in the last 5 or 10 years in the hotel industry, who would have ever expected that you could have booked a room on Facebook? Well, now you can. I mean, they have ability. You can actually go and book a room for a lot of hotels on Facebook. Think about booking channels, price transparency. The day of the bar, the best available rate is over. In the old days, if you were coming to me and trying to book a group convention, you would come to me and I would tell you what the bar was. Here's our bar, but for you, I'm going to give you a special deal, and I'm going to give you this. Well, now what happens? When you come in, you tell me, what have you done? You've done your homework, you've checked the internet before you showed up, and you tell me what the lowest available rate you saw on the internet was, and then you're looking for a deal from that point on. Totally different environment. The price transparency is significantly different. And of course, what does that have? That calls discounting, So the temptation towards discounting now is significantly different than what it was in the future. Lots of things going on. Meta search, social media, revenue. The sophistication of revenue management is just it is just so complicated to think about that. It's a science now, and no longer an art. We talk a lot about moving from RevPAR to GoPAR. What's that mean for those from the hotel experience? RevPAR is the revenue per available room. A lot of interest now in moving to the profit per available room, and being able to factor that into the big picture as well. By the way, I'll make sure. I see some of you feverishly taking notes. I'll make sure we'll get this PowerPoint to you. If you'd like to get this PowerPoint, check with the folks from Hagahelia, and they'll be sure to get that out to you as well. So lots of changes going on in the industry. Another takeaway, the industry is becoming more and more of a global industry, and it's more important for people to know what's going on all over the world. Traveling is there's more and more international travelers coming to us. Development around the world is more and more important. The big hotel companies, where have been the big development areas in the last 5 years? Probably the biggest development area has been Asia. Everybody's thinking about what's going on in Asia. But now the companies are thinking about what? Where's the next areas? So you have companies looking at places like Africa and looking at Eastern Europe and South and Latin America to try to determine, where are the next big areas and what are the products in those areas? What type of hotels? What type of hotels are going to be what's everybody interested in Latin America right now? Well, it's the mid-scale hotel, because there's already luxury hotels, there's already low-end independent and economy hotels, so mid-scale is the big interest. So lots of things going on from a development point of view as well. And then lots of conversation about closer ties between hospitality industry and academia. I know there are a lot of academics in the room as well, and that's a big topic of conversation. When I go to academic conferences, there's always a lot of focus and conversation between how do we connect, how do we have a better relationship between industry professionals and academic professionals, the educators and the professors, and how do we get those two groups working more closely together and figuring out what are your needs, how can we help, and what are your needs and how can we help. A lot of conversation there as well. So that's just a little bit of what we see going on in the industry. I'd like to switch now and just talk a little bit about our company and how we serve the industry. Some of you know us. If you're not in the hotel industry, you'd be brand new to us. The company is STR. It stands for Smith Travel Research. A lot of people recognize us as the leader in the hotel research, but really what we do, the way we serve the industry, is we provide a benchmarking service to the industry. Now, we obtain data from lots of hotels around the world, about 50,000 hotels. Now, in terms of percentages, that's 70% in the US, 50% outside the world. But when it comes to the big chain hotels, the multinational type hotels like the Hiltons and the Marriotts and the Starwoods of the world, or even the regional chains like the Shangri-La or the Orient Express or the Scandics of the world, about 90% of those type of chain hotels submit their performance data to us, both daily and monthly. And then we produce these things called star reports that Aria alluded to before. We do that for nearly 50,000 hotels. Now, these are benchmarking reports, so hotels get to compare their performance with their competitors. Here's a great slide to introduce that. This is a fun slide. I usually will use this slide when I'm in the classroom speaking to students as well. My automation isn't working. I think I have a new version of PowerPoint here that I'm working with. But pretend with me that you're just looking at the yellow bars. The orange bars, this bar here and this bar here. And notice what we're looking at. We're comparing manager A to manager B with some year-over-year change measurement. It could be the occupancy of these hotels or the RevPAR of these hotels. But if you notice manager A did 7% better than last year, and manager B did 3% poorer than last year. So if I'm in the classroom and I ask the students, they're just looking at the orange bars, remember. If I ask the students who gets the bonus, manager A or manager B, it's always unanimous. What do they say? Manager A, 7% better than last year. Who could ask for anything more than that? Then I click the button, and if the automation was working, I then have the yellow bars appear. And then it becomes a totally different story, doesn't it? Because now, manager A, who was looking good just a minute ago, we now see that what happened? They actually underperformed their competitors by 8 points. And manager B, who he or she was looking really good just a minute ago, was looking pretty poor, just a minute ago. Now what do we see? They actually outperformed their competitors by 7 points. Totally different picture, isn't it, when you apply benchmarking? Before we were looking at these two managers in a vacuum, a data vacuum. Now we're comparing them to their competitors, and it's totally different. Now, luckily, if you're a hotel GM, most hotel GMs get bonused related to benchmarking type information. So they're comparing their performance to their comp sets. And in a niche, that's how we serve the hotel industry. We provide this type of benchmarking feedback for them. And there's my automation not actually working, but that's what that's the way we serve the industry. Now, our primary customers are the hotel companies and the hotels around the world, but then we serve a lot of other organizations and entities in the hotel industry. The tourism organizations benefit from our data because it helps them keep their finger on the pulse of the industry and their local market. Developers, accounting firms, financial firms, the media, it's interesting, one of the biggest consumers of our data is Starbucks. You guys were talking about Starbucks a minute ago. Why are they interested in hotel data? Well, they know that if there's a street corner somewhere with a bunch of hotels, those are all potential coffee customers, aren't they? And they want to know what that's looking like to justify whether or not to put a Starbucks either in one of those hotels, and in that case, they're going to try to get the best performing one, or on the street corner somewhere nearby. So lots of different entities in the hotel industry. One of the more exciting things that we just launched was a service to universities and professors. I'll talk about that in a minute. Won't cover much about the history of STR. We've been doing this for a long time. We have offices all over the world. So a lot of times people think that it's just a U.S. kind of company, where indeed we're far from that, all over the world. And then our sister company is Hotel News Now. If you're a hotel professional, this is a free electronic news service that you can take advantage of. Recommend it highly. It's a global news service, so there'll be articles all over the world and different topics from revenue. Some of them will be topic related, like revenue management or development. Some will be regionally located, and so there'll be articles all over the world, totally free to take advantage of. And it has a user-friendly search capability. There are a lot of students in the room, so if you're working on a project and you can take advantage of the search capability, type in a word, and you'll find all the articles on a specific topic. Or, I thought about this yesterday, I'll throw it in for the advantage of the students. Before you go interview somewhere, you can look up your company. If you type in Marriott, you're going to find all the speeches that Mr. Marriott gave at the last conferences. And when you walk in the door for that interview, and what's the question? What's one of the most important questions for both the professionals and the students that you're going to get in during that interview process? Why do you want to come work for me? Well, that's a perfect application for you guys. You can know, hey, why do you want to work for Marriott? What makes that company different? So anyway, little sidetrack there. Hotel News Now is a free resource there in terms of news and hotel data. Then in 2011, we launched a program called the Share Center. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, STR products and services, this is just a quick overview. Probably the most popular product that people relate to us with is the STAR report. Those are the reports for an individual hotel. So hotel GMs get these STAR reports on a regular basis. I'll show you a sample real quick in a minute. But then lots of other possibilities or lots of other products and services as well. Ad hoc reports, I'll show you some samples of those just for your own information. And then industry presentations. One of our roles in the hotel industry, because we collect all this data, is we do a lot of industry presentations. Like this one here, we did a big presentation in Berlin at the ITB conference just recently, and all over the world. We've figured out that every other business day of the year, someone from STR or STR Global is doing a presentation at some conference in some place in the world. Now let's take a look at a monthly star report, and this is, I'll zoom in on this in just a minute. This is a sample page from a monthly star report. If you're an individual hotel owner, you're going to get a data like this. The whole report has about 10 pages to it. This would be just one page, and what this is showing, it's showing data for your hotel versus your competitors. That's what we mean by a comp set, and a hotel GM would get to pick their competitor, their comp set, which would be 4 or more hotels that they feel they most directly compete with. Then the star report will show them information, performance information, how they compare to their competitors. It'll show them occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR over both monthly data back, and this will be trended data back in time. I'm going to take a look at, let's take a look at the graphs just to give you an idea of what's going on. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here on the graphs. The graphs will show you occupancy, ADR, and RevPAR. It shows indexes, and what we mean by indexes, it basically, this is a win or lose type situation. If you notice, there's a dotted line right here in the middle, and then the occupancy index is blue, ADR is green, RevPAR is brown. The bottom line is this: if your hotel is winning, that line will be above the dotted line. If the comp set is beating you, it'll be below the dotted line. That's basically the benchmarking type of information that's being provided in a star report. Now, if we look at this particular hotel, you'll notice that by and large, they're doing pretty good. Now, in July and August, they dipped a little bit in the area of occupancy. They went down a little bit, but then recovered, and then went down a little bit in January. But take a look, and this is a sample. This is an excerpt from one of the training programs that we produce for students, and it paints a case scenario right here in March. And the case scenario is this. In March, the general manager actually feels, they take over this hotel, they feel like they have a very loyal customer base, and they raise the ADRs. Now you can see from the index line right here how you can see that. The ADR index is going up, which indicates that their ADR is going above the comp set average, so it's increasing, and that's the hypothetical scenario is they're increasing their ADRs, and they're doing that because they feel like they have a very loyal customer base. Now the star report shows immediate feedback of what happened here. Look at the occupancies and what happened in April to those occupancies when the general manager raised the ADRs. Not only did they go down dramatically, but they went down immediately as well. So what did the general manager learn about their hypothesis of having a very loyal customer base? Not quite so. The bubble got burst pretty quickly there. Not as loyal as they expected. Now, hypothetically, you can see this general manager didn't give up, did they? For the next 3 months, they kept the ADRs very high. And how did it affect the occupancies? Well, they stayed down as well, significantly below the line. And eventually the general manager got the idea and began to lower the ADRs, and the occupancy returned. Now, this is totally a case scenario. This is one we use in the training. But look what we ask the students in this training exercise. We say, did the general manager do the wrong thing? And what I would propose is no, they really didn't do the wrong thing. The general manager gets paid to try different things and to try areas of improvement. Now maybe they did it a little too drastically, and maybe they hung on a little too long and should have responded a little quicker. But they get paid to look for areas of improvement and make changes. The good news about the star report is it provides a general manager feedback related to the strategic decisions that they're making, and that's basically the value of the star report in a good case scenario. And the other thing we do, besides the Star Report, is we make presentations all over the world. This is a typical kind of presentation that we do. And what we're looking here is we're looking at a long trend. We're looking at a trend from 2000 to 2013, and we're looking at demand. Now, demand in the hotel industry translates to one thing. It translates to number of room nights sold. How many room nights did a hotel sell? That's what we mean by demand. Very important metric and measurement in the industry. And we're looking at this is 12-month moving average data, long time period here. Now, this is interesting because the demand trend over this long period of time shows you what? It shows you two economic cycles, doesn't it? What happened in 2001? A big downturn in early 2000, and you see the demand go down in 2000. Now, what happened in the middle of that year? A lot of recovery, and then towards the end of 2000, another big drop. From this, what do you see about the two downturns that we've experienced most recently, which was more significant? Definitely the second downturn had a much more significant toll on the hotel industry. And you see that kind of information over time. You notice we're tracking here the Europe, Scandinavia, and Finland. A lot of similarities here, but some interesting differences as well. Look at Finland is the green line. Notice how it was the least affected of these three geographic areas during the first downturn, but what do you see about Finland during the second downturn? Most affected during the second downturn. The other interesting thing that you see here, this downturn was significantly more drastic than the first one, but look at the recovery that we experienced in 2010. A huge recovery. This was the largest recovery the hotel industry has ever seen coming out of 2009, and you'll notice the Finland recovery was on the top of that, definitely the highest of all three of those geographic areas. So that's the kind of thing that we do. We track that kind of data. The next slide here shows comparable data that we track. This is looking at demand percent change over 4 different cities: Copenhagen, Helsinki, Oslo, and Stockholm. And here we're looking at annual demand percent change for 5 different years. And this was interesting. Look at the differences between the 5 different cities. Copenhagen, for example. Now, 2009 was a terrible year for everybody. That was the peak of the downturn. But notice Copenhagen wasn't as severely affected as some of these other cities. A big rebound in 2010, and then leveled off a little bit, 2011, then 12, and then 13. Compare that to Helsinki, much deeper along the lines of Oslo, bigger recovery, then leveled off, and now a little bit down in the negative numbers during 2012 and 2013. Now, some of that will be compared to the high numbers. These are percent change numbers, of course. Oslo, the most affected during 2009, but then look at the difference in the recovery for a city like Oslo. A more gradual recovery, peaking more slowly, and then a huge drop in 2013 when it comes to demand percent change. Of course, this is year-over-year data, so some of that is cumulative, and so some of that is natural. Smaller in Stockholm. So anyway, interesting to be able to compare what goes on in different cities. We do, we can do city-by-city comparisons. We do comparisons. The other thing that's very popular is different scale of hotels. How did the luxury hotels do in an area versus upper upscale versus upscale, mid-scale economy hotels in different areas, class level data as well. And here's a little more Finland data. Here's occupancy and ADR percent change from 2005 to 2013. Occupancy is the blue line, ADR is the green line. You'll notice how does the trend work between occupancy and ADR? ADRs will always follow occupancies, won't they? So when you see, like in this downturn in 2009, what started down first? The occupancy started down first, And then about 3 to 6 months afterwards, now you see the ADRs go down. But notice the good news here in Finland was the occupancy didn't stay down long. It turned around relatively quickly, and the ADRs rebounded very quickly as well. So interesting to see the interaction between the two. And then another type of data that we track and that's very interesting to customers is pipeline data. Now, when we're talking about pipeline, we're talking about development information. These would be hotels that are under construction or hotels that are in planning. And we get that type of data from the different areas as well. Now, this was just select European countries, but look at some of the countries. This is a stacked bar graph, and we're looking at two types of metrics here. We're looking at the existing hotels. That would be the yellow line. So when it comes to some of the largest countries, we have UK, Spain, and Germany with the largest number of existing hotels. But then the brown graph, the brown part of that graph, shows the number of hotels that are in the pipeline. If you look at look at UK, large number of hotels, almost 42,000 hotels in the pipeline. Russia has 23,000 hotels in the pipeline. And then what I added in here was the percentage of hotels in the pipeline compared to the existing supply. And what do you see? Who's the leader as far as that's concerned? Russia, by far, largest number of hotels in the pipeline. So, like I said, a big development area of the future. Of course, a lot of that development focus has been in Asia, and it still is. There's still a lot going on in Asia. But now the industry is beginning to think about, hey, what are the next opportunities? And they're looking at areas of the world, but they're also looking at types of hotels. One of the big news items recently, what did Marriott just buy? A big chain of hotels. Marriott just bought a big chain of hotels, Protea. And that was where? That was based in Africa. 150 hotels just came under the Marriott umbrella in Africa, giving them a big presence in a developing area. The other thing that goes on a lot when it comes to development is different types of hotels. And we see a lot of changes there as well. Now, that's a little bit about STR. Real quickly, for those who are academics in the audience, the Share Center is a new program that we launched 2 years ago. Very exciting program, and this is an example of, sometimes you're luckier than you are smart, and this is a situation where we just tried something, and the response from academia has been incredible. We launched a program to support hotel-related academic research and education. That was the abbreviation of the word SHARE. Our mission was twofold: to provide thorough and timely data for research, and obviously an important part of a school, especially a top-notch school like Haaga-Helia, is research. That's, that in our estimation, and I won't tell us to too many people, but in our estimation, the measure of a quality program is the emphasis on the research. So one of our goals was to provide the data that we have available to schools like the ones we have represented here for their research, and then also comprehensive and relevant training materials for the classroom. Now, we launched this in 2011, and we now have nearly 300 member universities in the program. 35 different countries, 100 schools outside the U.S., which is really now one of our big emphasis, to try to expand the program in Europe and Asia, and to be able to, it's really an honor for us to be able to serve schools and give back to academia, and that's a very exciting program for us. So what we're doing is we're making the data that we collect available to professors for them to use for research, as well as students, many of the students represented in the classroom, for them, because what do they need? They all have projects. Several of them were talking about the theses that they're working on, and one of the cool things that we can do is we can provide data for them live industry data for them to work with to get hands-on experience working with the same type of data that they'll be working with when they get out there employed by the industry. So lots of types of different data that we're making available to them. Lots of other ways that we can serve them. Industry publications, sample reports, lots of different things, even training programs that we can help them with, and these are just examples of some of the student projects that we're able to facilitate and make possible. Ari, for example, he has a big project where with his students where he does a feasibility study, and we can provide lots of data to help make those feasibility studies more realistic. Then the next thing that sort of grew out of that commitment to education was a certification program. And really that grew out of feedback from professors, because as we were interacting with the academic community, the biggest thing we heard from professors was they wanted some sort of stamp of approval on their students. So in 2012, we launched a certification in hotel industry analytics. A lot of focus on analytics. That was a big area of interest. Now, the certification is jointly offered by the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute. John Lohr is here from that organization. That's an organization that focuses a lot on education and certification around the world, not just in America. And then also another association called ICRE, which is an association of most of the hotel and restaurant professors around the world. And so we launched that in 2012. Even in the early stage, we've certified over 1,000 students. And so that's very exciting and providing very relevant service to the industry. A little description of the certification, just to give you an idea of part of the goal and part of the vision of this certification. A lot of focus on the foundational metrics, definitions, formulas, and methodologies. Why? Because the feedback that we heard from industry was the students that come to work for hotel professionals like yourself, they need to have these skills, and we want, it'd be nice for them to have these skills before they get here rather than us to have to train them and provide those skills after they get here. So a lot of emphasis on analytical skills. The ability to do the math and interpret the results. Interesting feedback. We did a roundtable recently, and we had a senior VP of revenue management for a major hotel chain. And somebody asked her, who are you looking for? What type of students are you looking for? And she had a very interesting observation. She said, here's what I need. I need number geeks who can communicate. And I thought that was really interesting. She said, look, I can get number geeks a dime a dozen. They're all over. I can find a number geek anytime I want. But very few of them can communicate. And I can find lots of people who can communicate, but they don't have a clue what the numbers mean. What was she asking for? She was asking for students who had the ability to analyze the data. They understood what the data would be. It could be property level data, or it could, about an individual hotel, or it could be market level data. What's going on in the market of Finland or in the market of Helsinki. But they wanted both. And that's sort of what this certification is related to. So, then very exciting, we just recently launched an industry version of this certification. We've done pilot programs with lots of different hotel companies, and we're in the process of launching that as an industry certification. On Monday, we were actually talking to a major hotel company up here in Scandinavia about utilizing this certification for their general managers, their revenue managers, their corporate staff as well. So more news, and that's very exciting development. So that's a little bit about our company. Real quick, I'm going to jump through some of these slides. I'm sensitive to the time a little bit here, but I'll just run through real briefly. When it comes to hotel industry analytics, what does that mean to us? Like I said, we'll be glad to get this out to you and I'll be glad to spend more time with you if you'd like any more follow-up information. We boil industry analytics into 4 different main topics. one called Analytical Foundations, another called Hotel Math Fundamentals, the metrics used by the hotel industry, then property level benchmarking, and fourth, hotel industry performance reports. Real brief definition of each of these. In this foundation training, we talk about the players in the hotel industry, affiliations, operation types, categorization methods used by the industry. You know, it's interesting. A lot of times people will come to us and say, hey, can you give me a report on all the five-star hotels? Well, depending upon where you are in the world, five-star hotels can mean totally different things. You know, in the U.S., you know, star ratings have no meaning at all. Now, in certain countries, they do because they're assigned by the government, but the star ratings can be very ambiguous or not inconsistent. So we teach the different geographic categorization, non-geographic categorization, talk about benchmarking in the hotel industry. And these are just examples of some of the material we cover in some of the analytics. This is what we think of when we're talking about analytics. Very important concept: chain versus independent hotels in different areas of the world. Hugely different if you look at U.S. to non-U.S. You go to a place like Italy where there's only 10% chain hotels. Totally different situations. And then hotel math fundamentals, metrics used by the hotel industry. This just gives you a quick sample of some of the things that are being covered. The lingo, the formulas, the methodologies, what's penetration, what's yield. Very important concepts in the industry, market share, and things like that. And then lifelike examples. We always joke with academics about being scared of math. And one of the things we try to do is make sure, it's not rocket science. The math used by the hotel industry, and you don't really have to be a numbers geek because the math is basic math. But it's important to understand how it works and how those formulas and methodologies go on behind the scenes. Just to put some samples. Little property level benchmarking and sort of what we cover when it comes to that. That's basically teaching GMs how to understand the benchmarking reports and how to look for areas of improvement when it comes to those reports. Here's a very underutilized report that we make available showing day of week information. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to help GMs focus in on reports like this to look for areas of improvement. Hey, here's a problem on Thursdays. What can I do to increase my performance on a specific day of the week? That's just an example. And here's another example where we show data based upon transient group and contract segmented business data. And then last slide, a little bit about some of our performance reports. And these are some of the reports that we make available, not just to the hotel companies, but even to developers and people who are doing feasibility studies as well. And just some samples. Sometimes data isn't super sexy, but it's very, very valuable. And that's one of the things we try to emphasize when it comes to analytics. Monthly data, daily data, pipeline data, what's going on in the pipeline. And always exciting, profit and loss accounting data. Feasibility study, Ari and I were talking about this. It's one thing for hotels to be performing well. It's a very different thing for them to actually be making a profit. And that's the type of data we're talking about and we're showing as well. So just a little bit of information about what we think of when we think of analytics and how we try to serve the industry. And that's it. Thank you very much.